cold, open hook. Do not scroll. Chosen one, stop. Don't you dare scroll past this. The moment your eyes landed here, something in the unseen world just shifted around your name. You felt it, didn't you? That pull, that whisper you can't explain. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. Here's what I need you to hear right now. There is a lawyer after you, not to arrest you, not to accuse you, but because there are two things, two sealed assignments hidden in your name that heaven refused to let stay buried any longer. And I know what you're thinking. A lawyer? What does that even mean? What could possibly be tied to me that I don't know about? Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like something was taken from you years ago? Something you deserved? Something that had your name on it, but you never got it? Maybe it was an inheritance. Maybe it was an opportunity. Maybe it was a relationship, a position, a promise someone made and broke. You stopped asking about it. You buried the pain. You told yourself it didn't matter anymore. But here's the truth. Heaven never forgot. And right now, in the court of the Most High, a file with your name on it has been reopened. A case everyone thought was closed, except God. One of those two things, it's tied to something you lost. Something the enemy thought he stole for good. The other? It's tied to who you're becoming right now. The version of you the world hasn't met yet, but heaven already knows. And listen closely. The reason you've been walking through so much confusion, so much delay, so much resistance lately, it's because the enemy has been fighting to keep you from these two assignments. He knows if you receive them, everything changes. Your authority rises, your clarity returns, your breakthrough becomes undeniable. But before this message ends, you're going to understand exactly what those two are and why this moment right now is the most important one you've had all week. Now, if something in you is already stirring, if your heart's beating a little faster, if your spirit is saying, "This is for me, I need you to do something," drop an amen in the comments. Right now. Not because I need it, but because it's your way of saying, "Lord, I'm listening, I'm ready." And thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. Now, let me tell you what heaven just revealed about you. Setting the emotional landscape. You thought it was over. You know what nobody tells you about getting older? It's not the body slowing down that hurts the most. It's not the gray hair or the aches in your knees. It's the weight of everything you lost along the way that nobody ever acknowledged. The things that had your name on them, the things you worked for, prayed for, believed God promised you. And then one day, you woke up and they were just gone. You've lived long enough to watch people walk away with what should have been yours. Money that disappeared into the wrong hands. Property that got taken in a legal mess you couldn't untangle. Opportunities that slipped through your fingers, while others who didn't sacrifice half of what you did walked right into them. And the worst part? You couldn't even talk about it, because when you tried, people looked at you like you were bitter, like you couldn't let go, like you were stuck in the past. But you weren't bitter. You were bleeding. There's a difference between holding a grudge and holding a wound that never got the chance to heal. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself right now. Have you ever had family, your own blood, turn their back on you over something that should have been shared? A sibling who took what your parents left and acted like you didn't exist? A child who promised to take care of you and then stopped calling the moment the inheritance cleared? Have you ever sat at a table with a lawyer, signing papers you didn't fully understand, watching someone else's name go where yours should have been. Have you ever prayed for something so long, so hard, that eventually you stopped praying because it felt like God stopped listening? I know you have. Because that's the story of so many who are called chosen. The road to purpose is paved with losses that don't make sense yet. And here's what the enemy whispers in those moments. It's over. You missed it. You're too old now. It's too late. On come. But let me tell you what heaven says. Luke 8:17 tells us, "For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open." Read that again. Nothing hidden that will not be disclosed. That means everything taken in secret will be revealed in public. Every lie told about you will be corrected. Every door that closed unfairly will reopen with divine force. Because God doesn't forget, He doesn't overlook, and He doesn't run out of time. Your life has felt like a house with some rooms locked shut. You could hear something behind the door, voices, movement, something alive but no key in sight. You tried the handle, you knocked, you even put your ear to the wood and listened, but it stayed locked. And after a while, you stopped trying. You walked past that door every day and pretended it wasn't there. But here's what I need you to understand. God never lost the key. He only waited for the right hour to turn it. And that hour is now. Right now, in the unseen realm, that lawyer I told you about, he's holding a file that's been buried under legal language, hidden in storage, pushed to the back of a cabinet someone hoped would never be opened again. But it has your name on it, not theirs, yours. And it contains two things, two assignments, two pieces of your story that were supposed to close years ago but didn't because heaven said, not yet. One of them is tied to what you lost, something you've carried grief over, something that still makes your chest tighten when you think about it late at night. The other is tied to what you're becoming, a new door, a new direction, a new chapter you didn't even know was being written for you. And I'll tell you why this is happening now and not 10 years ago, not 5 years ago, not even last year. Because you weren't ready then. You had to go through the fire first. You had to be refined, tested, stripped of everything that wasn't truly you so that when this moment came, you'd recognize it for what it is. Not luck, not coincidence, divine intervention. You see, the enemy fought hard to keep you from this moment. That's why there's been so much confusion lately, so much delay, so many things breaking down right when they should have been breaking through. He knows what those two assignments carry. He knows that when you step into them, your authority shifts, your clarity returns. Your breakthrough becomes undeniable, and he can't have that. But here's the problem for him. He's not in charge of your timeline. God is. And God just said, enough. Release what belongs to my child. So right now, if you know deep in your spirit what it feels like to lose something that had your name on it, I want you to do something. Just nod your head where you are. Don't say anything out loud if you don't want to. Just nod and say quietly in your heart, Lord, I hear you. Because he's not just talking, he's moving. And what he's about to reveal in the next few minutes is going to shake something loose in you that's been stuck for years. The lawyer searching for you isn't coming with bad news. He's coming with restoration. And the two things he's carrying, they're not just answers, they're keys. Keys to rooms you thought were sealed forever. But nothing stays locked when God decides it's time to open. So stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you next is going to explain exactly what those two assignments are, why they've been hidden until now, and what you need to do the moment they reach you. This isn't theory anymore. This is your life, and it's about to make sense in a way it never has before. Introducing the heavenly lawyer, a file that wouldn't stay buried. Picture this with me. It's 11:47 at night. A lawyer sits alone in his office. The city outside is quiet. The fluorescent lights hum overhead. His desk is buried under stacks of corporate folders, settlement cases, estate claims that haven't moved in years. He's exhausted. He reaches for one more file before calling it a night. A routine corporate case. Nothing unusual. But then something strange happens. Your name rises to the top. He stops, stares at it. He doesn't remember this file. He doesn't recognize the case number. And when he opens the system to search for it, nothing. No record.
I am here.
No digital trail.
Follow the
According to the
light.
database, this file was deleted years ago, but it's sitting right there in his hands. Solid, real, undeniable. He tries to set it aside, move on to the next one, but every time he does, your file slides back to the top of the pile, like it has a will of its own. His assistant walks in, sees the folder. Her face goes pale. She reaches for it quickly, tries to bury it beneath a stack of corporate claims. But when she turns around, it's on top again. She whispers under her breath, "It's like this file wants to be found." And that's when the lights flicker. Not a power surge, not a blown fuse, just a strange, sudden stillness that fills the room. The kind of silence that makes you feel like you're not alone. The lawyer sits back in his chair. He doesn't understand what's happening, but deep in his chest, something stirs. A quiet knowing, a holy restlessness. He opens the file again, and this time, he reads every word. And when he sees your name, when he sees what's tied to your identity, peace floods his chest, a peace he can't explain. He says out loud, to no one in particular, "I don't know who this person is, but this feels destined. Chosen one, do you understand what just happened? While you thought you were forgotten, heaven was making your case impossible to ignore. While you cried alone in the dark, thinking nobody cared, God was assigning a messenger, a human being, a stranger who doesn't even know you, but whose spirit couldn't rest until your file was found. The Bible says it plainly, the Lord will perfect that which concerns you." Psalm 138:8. Not might, not maybe, will. God doesn't leave things half-finished. He doesn't forget what he started. And right now, heaven is perfecting something in your life that the world tried to erase. But let me tell you something that's going to shake you. This isn't just about a lawyer in a building. This isn't just about paperwork and legal systems. I'm talking about heaven assigning people, systems, emails, opportunities, and divine interruptions to suddenly remember your name. You felt it, haven't you? People reaching out after years of silence. Doors cracking open that were bolted shut. Conversations that circle back to you without explanation. That's not coincidence. That's divine orchestration. God is moving behind the scenes, using flesh and blood people to carry what's spiritually yours back into your hands. And here's where it gets even deeper. When that lawyer finally opened your file all the way, when he got to the original documents, he saw something that made his hands shake. A signature, a name, someone who was supposed to protect you. Someone you once trusted without question. Someone who had legal authority over parts of your past. And they buried it, not out of hatred, not even out of greed, but out of fear. Fear that if you ever found out what was yours, their control would end. So they hid it, sealed it, deleted the trail, changed the records, hoped time would be enough to bury the truth. But here's what they didn't know. Time doesn't bury truth. Time preserves it. And when heaven decides it's time for something to surface, nothing, not systems, not silence, not sabotage, can keep it down. The lawyer stared at that name, and something in him broke open. He realized this wasn't just a case, this was a correction, a divine reversal. He's been dreaming about you ever since. Not nightmares, not anxiety, just your initials, repeating like a heartbeat, like heaven tapping on his shoulder saying, "Don't rest until this is delivered." And right now, as you're hearing this, he's pacing, he's searching, he's following a trail that logic can't explain. Because when God assigns someone to your restoration, they won't stop until the mission is complete. Now let me ask you something. Have you been feeling restless lately? Like something's shifting but you can't name it? Have you been waking up at strange hours with your heart racing for no reason? Have you been sensing that something's about to break open, but you're afraid to hope because you've been disappointed before? Listen to me carefully. That's not anxiety. That's anticipation. Your spirit knows something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. Heaven is moving, and the evidence is about to land in your hands. But here's the part that's going to wreck you. Inside that file aren't just documents. There are 2 envelopes, 2 sealed assignments. One holds the answer to something you lost years ago, something stolen, something you stopped praying for because it hurt too much to remember. The other holds the blueprint for who you're becoming, the version of you the enemy has been terrified of since the day you were born. And both of them have your name written in a way that can't be erased, can't be forged, can't be transferred. They were always yours. The lawyer doesn't fully understand what he's carrying, but his soul knows it's heavy, sacred, urgent. He keeps whispering, "This person has been waiting long enough." And you have, haven't you? You've been faithful when it didn't make sense. You've been silent when you wanted to scream. You've chosen integrity when revenge would have been easier, and heaven saw every single moment. Now it's time for the file that wouldn't stay buried to be opened in full light. So stay close, don't move, don't scroll, because what I'm about to show you next is the name on that signature and why this moment is the turning point you've been praying for. The great cover-up. Someone signed in your place. Now listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is going to shake something loose in your spirit that's been buried for years. Somebody tried to play God with your life. They signed where only your name should have been. Let that sink in for a moment. Someone you trusted, maybe even someone you loved, put their signature on something that belonged to you. They took what heaven had already marked with your identity, and they claimed it as their own. And the worst part, you didn't even know it happened. You just felt the absence, the emptiness, the confusion of watching doors close that should have stayed open, watching blessings disappear that were supposed to land in your hands. You thought you did something wrong. You thought God forgot you. You thought maybe you weren't worthy after all. But that was never the truth. The truth is this: while you were being faithful, while you were trusting, while you were waiting on God with a pure heart, someone else was moving in the shadows. Someone else was erasing your name and writing theirs. Someone else was stealing what grace had already assigned to you. And I know some of you right now, your chest is getting tight, because a name just came to your mind. A face you haven't thought about in years just flashed before your eyes. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. That's the Holy Spirit saying, yes, them. That's who I'm talking about. Maybe it was a relative who manipulated paperwork after someone you loved passed away. They rewrote the will. They changed the deed. They told you there was nothing left when the whole time there was something with your name carved into it. Maybe it was a partner, a business associate, a spouse, someone you built something with who hid assets, rerouted accounts, transferred ownership while you were still believing the best in them. Or maybe it was even bigger than that. Maybe it was a system, a corporation, a government office, a legal process that somehow lost your application, misplaced your documents, told you it was too late when the deadline hadn't even passed yet. You tried to fight it at first. You asked questions. You made phone calls. You sent letters. But every door slammed. Every voice said no. Every attempt to get answers met with silence. So eventually, You stopped trying. You buried the anger. You swallowed the pain. You convinced yourself it didn't matter anymore. But chosen one, listen to me. It mattered to heaven. Because while you let it go, God did not. Scripture tells us in Job 12:22, He reveals the deep things of darkness and brings utter darkness into the light. What does that mean? It means nothing stays hidden forever. It means every secret signature, every forged document, every manipulation done in the dark will eventually be dragged into the light of truth. And that day is now. Let me tell you what happened behind the scenes, what you couldn't see, what the enemy thought would stay buried forever. That lawyer I told you about. When he found your file, he didn't just find paperwork. He found a trail, a history of interference, a pattern of someone deliberately blocking what was meant for you. And when he dug deeper, when he pulled the original records, he found something that made his hands shake. There was a signature, a name written in ink where yours should have been. And next to it, in small letters, a date. A date that proves this wasn't an accident. This was intentional. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. But here's where it gets even deeper. Tucked inside that same file, hidden between pages that were never meant to be found again, was a letter. A handwritten letter. And the first words on that letter weren't, "I'm innocent." They weren't, "This was a mistake." The first words were, "Forgive me." Let me say that again. Forgive me. The person who took what was yours, the person who signed in your place, the person who thought time would bury the evidence they knew. Deep down, they always knew. And somewhere between guilt and fear, between shame and the weight of what they'd done, they wrote it down. They confessed it, not to you, not to a court, but to themselves, to God, to the silence they thought would keep it safe. They thought time would hide what they did. But time doesn't erase truth, beloved. Time preserves it. Time holds it. Time keeps it locked in a vault until heaven says, "Now, release it." And heaven just said now. I need you to understand something. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about making someone pay. This isn't about you becoming the villain in someone else's story. This is about restoration. This is about justice. This is about God correcting a record that was tampered with by human hands. Because, listen, you could have become bitter. You could have spent years plotting, scheming, trying to get even. But you didn't. You chose a different path. You chose to keep your heart soft. You chose to forgive people who never even apologized. You chose to trust God even when nothing made sense. And that, chosen one, is why this moment is happening now. Not when you were angry, not when you were desperate, but now, when you're ready. When your spirit has matured enough to handle what's coming without it corrupting who you've become. There's a reason the Bible says vengeance belongs to the Lord. Because when God restores, He doesn't just give back what was taken. He multiplies it. He adds interest. He elevates it beyond what you even lost in the first place. And that letter? That confession hidden in the file? It's not there to hurt you. It's there to heal you. Because for years, you've been carrying a question you couldn't answer. Why? Why did that happen? Why was I treated that way? Why didn't anyone believe me? Now you know. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't because you weren't good enough, smart enough, strong enough. It was because someone else made a choice, a wrong choice, a choice that heaven is now undoing. And I want you to do something right now, right where you are. If this is hitting something deep, if there's a weight lifting off your chest that you didn't even know was there, I want you to whisper these words, just between you and God. Lord, I'm ready for the truth. Say it again. Lord, I'm ready for the truth. Because the truth isn't here to destroy you. The truth is here to set you free. And once you're free, Once that weight is gone, once you see clearly what was done and why heaven is correcting it now, everything changes. Your perspective changes, your posture changes, your future changes. The two assignments tied to your name, one of them was stolen, the other was delayed. But both of them are being returned, both of them are being activated, both of them are being released into your life with a power and a purpose that will leave no doubt in anyone's mind that God is real and His justice is perfect. So, now the question is this. What are you going to do when it all comes back? You're still here. That means your spirit knows something the world can't see yet. Now let me tell you about the two. Inside that brown leather case, the one the lawyer is carrying, there are two sealed envelopes. Not one, two. And on both of them, your initials are engraved in silver, not printed, engraved, like they were always meant to last. One envelope to remember who you were, one to become who you're meant to be. And here's what shook me when I saw this in the spirit. These aren't just documents, they're declarations. One speaks to your past, the other speaks to your future. And together, they form a bridge across the years you thought were wasted. Let me break this down, because this is where everything starts to make sense. The first assignment, the first envelope, it's material, it's earthly, it's tied to what was taken from you in the natural realm. Maybe it was an inheritance that never reached you. Maybe it was a job you were promised but someone else got. Maybe it was property with your name on it that somehow disappeared from the records. Maybe it was money owed to you that you gave up chasing because you were too tired, too hurt, too defeated to keep fighting. You let it go. You told yourself it wasn't worth the battle. You said, God will take care of me another way. And He did. But not the way you thought. Because heaven doesn't forget. Heaven keeps receipts. And when the courts of earth fail you, the court of heaven steps in. This first envelope is the document that says, what was withheld must now be returned by law, not by favor, not by luck, by divine justice. It's the earthly sign that heaven stepped in and said, enough. What belongs to them is being released now. You hear me? This is restoration in the natural. This is God correcting the record. This is your name being put back where it always belonged. And the Bible backs this up. Joel 2:25 says, I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten. Not some of the years, not a percentage, the years, plural. Everything the enemy devoured while you were sleeping, while you were trusting, while you were waiting, it's being returned with interest. But here's where it gets deeper. The second envelope. Oh, the second one. It's not about money. It's not about property. It's not even about opportunity. It's about you. This one is emotional, spiritual. It's tied to your identity, your confidence, your inner healing, your calling, the gifts you buried because people told you they weren't good enough. This envelope isn't typed on legal paper. It's written in the language of your soul. And when the lawyer opens it, he won't even fully understand what he's reading. But you will, because this is the letter that closes wounds you stopped touching years ago. Wounds so deep you don't even talk about them anymore. You just learned to live around the pain. Maybe it was rejection from your own family. Maybe it was a betrayal from someone you loved more than yourself. Maybe it was a dream that died so violently you stopped dreaming altogether. And you thought, that's just life. That's just how it goes. No, that's not how heaven sees it. Romans 11:29 says, for the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. Irrevocable. That means they can't be taken back. They can't be cancelled. They can't expire. Even if you forgot about them. Even if people told you that you weren't anointed, weren't gifted, weren't chosen, heaven didn't change its mind about you. And this second envelope, it's proof. Written proof that your calling is still intact. Your gifts are still activated. Your identity is still sealed in heaven's records. Think of it like this. God has two hands working on your behalf right now. One hand lifts you up financially. It corrects what was stolen in the natural. It opens doors you thought were welded shut. It releases resources you thought were gone forever. But the other hand lifts you up emotionally. It heals the parts of you that money can't fix. It restores the confidence the world tried to strip away. It reminds you who you are when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when it's just you and God in the quiet. Because here's the truth most people miss. You can't carry the blessing if your heart is still broken. You can receive the money and still feel empty. You can get the opportunity and still feel unworthy. You can have your name cleared and still feel like a fraud. That's why there are two. God isn't just restoring what you lost. He's restoring who you are. And this is the climax you need to hear. This was never just about money. It was about God, making sure your heart was healed enough to hold what your hands are about to touch. Do you see it now? Do you see why the enemy fought so hard to keep this buried? Because if you get the first envelope without the second, you'll misuse it, you'll waste it. You'll give it away to people who don't deserve it, because you still don't believe you deserve it. But if you get both, if you receive the material and the emotional, the earthly and the spiritual, the justice and the healing, then you become dangerous. You become someone who walks in authority because you know who you are. You become someone who handles wealth with wisdom because you've been healed of poverty mindset. You become someone who leads without fear because you've already been through the fire and came out refined. That's what these two assignments do. They don't just bless you, they transform you. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to lead you in a simple act right where you are, in your living room, at your kitchen table, wherever you're watching this, that will feel like opening those two envelopes in the spirit. You won't see paper, but you'll feel the shift. You'll feel something lift. You'll feel something unlock. Because the lawyer isn't just carrying documents, he's carrying your destiny, and it's time to receive it. But first, you need to understand one more thing. You need to know why now, why today, why this exact moment. Because timing isn't random, and what I'm about to show you next will prove that heaven has been setting this up longer than you realize. Stay with me, we're almost there. Why God waited. Your quiet forgiveness broke the seal. You've been asking the question for years, haven't you? Why did it take so long? Why did everyone else seem to get their breakthrough while you were still waiting in the shadows, praying the same prayers, believing the same promises, holding on to the same hope that was starting to feel like a cruel joke? You thought God forgot you. You thought maybe you weren't worthy enough. Maybe you didn't pray hard enough. Maybe you missed your moment years ago, and now it's just too late. But here's what heaven has been whispering over you this entire time, and I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. God didn't forget you. He was preparing you. What you called delay, heaven called development. What you called silence, God called strengthening. What felt like abandonment was actually divine positioning. Because some blessings can't be handed to you until you're ready to carry them without breaking. And the breaking isn't what crushes you. It's what you do with what crushed you. Let me tell you something that's going to shift everything you thought you understood about your story. There was a moment, a quiet moment, a moment nobody saw but heaven. It was the moment when you forgave someone who never apologized. Maybe it was a parent who never said, "I'm sorry." Maybe it was a spouse who walked away without explanation. Maybe it was a friend who betrayed you, a boss who used you, a system that failed you, and you had every right to hold on to that anger. Every legal right, every emotional right, every spiritual right. But one night, in the stillness, when nobody was watching, you whispered something that changed everything. You said, "I forgive them," Not because they deserved it, not because they asked for it, but because you couldn't carry it anymore. That moment, that was the key. That silent forgiveness unsealed what had been locked away. The Bible says in Genesis 18:14, "Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you." The appointed time, not your time, not their time, God's time. And God's time doesn't move according to your calendar, it moves according to your character. Heaven was waiting for your heart to lay down the knife of bitterness before it handed you the keys to blessing. Because if you had received what was coming to you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to handle it. The wealth would have consumed you, the influence would have corrupted you, the opportunity would have crushed you under the weight of your own unhealed wounds. But now you're different. You've been through the fire. You've walked through valleys nobody knows about. You've cried tears that dried in silence. You've wrestled with God in the middle of the night and refused to let go until He blessed you.
Here.
And that wrestling,
Follow
that's
the
what
light.
qualified you. The Apostle Paul said it this way in 1 Corinthians 15:58. "Your labor in the Lord is not in vain. Not one tear was wasted. Not one night of confusion was meaningless. Not one moment of waiting was without purpose. Every delay was a divine setup. Every closed door was God protecting you from something that would have destroyed the real you. Every no you heard was heaven saying, 'Not yet,' because what I have for you requires a version of you that hasn't been born yet." And now, after all these years of silence, after all these years of waiting, after all these years of wondering if you heard God right in the first place, things are about to move faster than they ever have in your life. Because here's what most people don't understand about divine timing. When God moves, He doesn't move slowly. He moves suddenly. One day you're waiting. The next day, everything shifts. One day, the door is closed. The next day, it's not just open, it's off the hinges. One day you're forgotten. The next day, your name is on everyone's lips and nobody can explain why. That's Kairos. That's the appointed time. That's the fullness of time when heaven and earth collide and the impossible becomes inevitable. And right now, you're standing at the edge of your Kairos moment. The lawyer searching for you, he's not just carrying documents. He's carrying the evidence that heaven kept perfect records of everything that was stolen from you, everything that was promised to you, everything that had your name on it but never reached your hands. And now, it's time for the return. Not just a partial return, a full restoration, with interest. The 2 sealed assignments you're about to receive aren't just blessings, they're proofs. Proof that God saw every injustice. Proof that heaven documented every tear. Proof that what the enemy meant for evil, God was working together for your good the entire time. One of those assignments is tied to your past. Something that should have been yours years ago but was withheld, stolen, buried. The other is tied to your future. Something you couldn't have received until you became who you are right now. And together, they form a complete circle. A divine restoration that doesn't just bless you, it vindicates you. Because when God restores, He doesn't just give back what was taken, He multiplies it. He doesn't just heal the wound, He turns the scar into a testimony. He doesn't just open the door, He makes sure everyone who said you'd never walk through it has to watch you step over the threshold. So here's what I need you to understand right now. Chosen one. The waiting wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The silence wasn't rejection, it was recalibration. The delay wasn't denial, it was divine strategy. And everything that tried to break you was actually building you into the person who could carry what's coming next. Because what's coming next isn't small, it's not subtle, it's not quiet. It's going to be undeniable. And when it arrives, you won't have to explain it. You won't have to defend it. You won't have to convince anyone. They'll just know. They'll look at you and say, "Something's different, something's changed. What happened to you?" And you'll smile, because you'll finally understand what God was doing all along. He wasn't making you wait. He was making you ready. And now, the wait is over.